Hi, good evening, everyone. We see a lot of participants are still joining in, so we'll wait for a few minutes before we start. Thank you for your patience. I think we can start the program now. So, I welcome each and every one of you present today. Uh, First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out to join the pre-program information webinar on Chief Operation Officer program by Indian Institute of Management Kozhikode. So my name is Sanket Shah, and I am the senior program advisor here, and I will be the moderator for the session today. So I'll be briefly running you through the agenda for the evening. So we'll be talking about the details of the program. We'll be talking about IIM Kozhikode, the prestigious institute in India. The key speakers for the session today, they'll be talking about the program highlights, the advantage of Kellogg Executive Education in the program, for whom this program is designed. We'll be talking about the learning outcomes. So what are the tangible skill set you will achieve after doing this program? We'll be talking about the program modules, so how the program is designed, what are the different modules that you will learn in the program. Then the guided capstone project and business simulations. What are the different case studies that we will learn in the program? Will be the program directors will give them details about themselves. Then we'll be talking about the certifications. The certifications, what certificate you will get at the end of the program. Then we'll have the floor open for question and answers. And we'll be talking about Emeritus and the next steps as well. So I welcome the program directors here for the evening. So we have Professor Ashutosh Sarkar. who is a professor for quantitative methods and operations management area at IIM Kozhikode. He is a PhD holder from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. He expertise in supply chain management, procurement with applied optimization. Professor Sarkar was recognized as the best professor in supply chain management area at the World Education Congress 2012. Along with this, we have Associate Professor Arqum Mateen, who is a professor for quantitative methods at Operations Management area at IIM Kozhikode. Professor Mateen has done his fellowship from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, in Operations Management area. He has done his PGDM in Marketing and Operations Management from IMT Ghaziabad. He has done his BTech in Mechanical Engineering from AMU Aligarh. And Professor Mateen is the winner for Satish K. Sehgal Doctoral Student Award as well. So now I will like Professor Sarkar to take over the sessions and guide the participants here.
Good evening, everyone. So thank you, Mr. Sanket, for the nice introduction of the program, or rather an icebreaker. So as Sanket has introduced, I am Professor Ashutosh Sarkar. I'm a professor at we in IIM Kozhikode, we have some concept of area. So I'm a professor of operations management and belong to an area called quantitative methods and operations management. So is Professor Arqum. And I am associated with IIM Kozhikode for the last 8 years. Before that, I was working with IIT Kharagpur. Then before that, IIT BHU. So I have also spent some time abroad also for my some associations and research related activities. So so before Professor Arqum takes over and talks about the program, let me give you some introduction about IIM Kozhikode. So most of you might be knowing a lot about IIM Kozhikode in some respect, more than us also. But just to give you a small background, so we started in the year 1996. So we are about a 25 years old institute, but in the 25 years, we have actually traveled or achieved significant milestones for an institute of only 25 years age. We have achieved a lot. In terms of the breadth of activities, as well as in terms of our connect networks, as well as the achievement of our alumni. So I'm not going to talk much about the kind of programs that we offer, which primarily is known to many of you, that we have a flagship MBA program, as well as we run some other specialized programs in finance area, as well as in LSM, liberal arts. We also run a business leadership program, as well as we have a very, very vibrant and a very large executive programs also. Then we run, in addition to our regular, say, degree programs, we actually contribute significantly towards skill development as well as competency building of executives, primarily from India, as well as we have done many similar type of activities for executives outside India also. So if you look at, say, the why me and Professor Arqum is actually have planned for this program. So over the years, we believe that we have actually learned a lot through our research, as well as through our interactions with executives, as well as through a number of consulting assignments that we have done. And we think that there are a lot of learnings from here. As well as during the process, we have also realized that as a country, we have a lot to achieve. The country is in a very, very crucial stage of growth, and capacity building and skill development is somewhat which becomes very, very crucial. You might be hearing that every economist would be talking that to sustain the growth, skill development, capacity building, education is very, very important. So in fact, um, uh, the manager or the executives, like say, I assume that many of you will be at your prime of your careers, and many of you will be actually taking a lead in this, in the growth that is happening in the country. So when we are talking of, say, the economy, or say with respect to the economy, what is the role of skill development and capacity building? So what we thought that it is very, very important to understand, like say whenever we talk about that for India, there are three important dimensions which any executive has to pay attention to. One is that the scale that we will have to achieve, which no other country has actually seen this level of scale except China. But what differentiates us from China is also the cultural, social, and geographic diversity that we have. And then the third important aspect is that everything we do has to be affordable to the larger sections of the society. So this puts us in a very, very challenging role, and your role as an executive is going to be very, very challenging. So that is where we thought that we would be trying to look those aspects primarily from and not just an academic perspective, but based on whatever we have learned and whatever we have actually, or the lot of research that has happened on these matters. So Professor Arqum will give a lot of ideas about the programs that we have planned. But just to talk about the key feature of this program is that we are not only going to talk about or bring in the general methodology that anyone would follow, like say bringing in case studies, simulations, but two important highlights of this program is the capstone project that Professor Arqum will talk a lot, as well as we are going to bring in a lot of our experiences of working with the Indian corporates to the classroom. So that will be one of our USP. So with this, I will pass the baton to my colleague, Professor Arqum. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Arqum.
Thank you, Professor Sarkar, and allow me to join Sanket and Professor Sarkar in welcoming all the participants. And I can see that there is already a stream of questions, which is always good in terms of engagement. So rest assured, we'll try to address all the queries one by one towards the latter half of the program, or of today's program, right? So let me quickly get right into that. Professor Sarkar has given you a broad idea of the institute and why we tried to start this program. So let's sort of kind of get going into a little bit more into details, right? So I mean, I'm sure all of you already know about operations being important and all that, right? So sometimes I tell people that post-COVID, right, you have anyone and everyone talking about operations and supply chains, right? You have our Prime Minister, the US President, right, global leaders, everyone trying to say that, hey, ops is important. Let's do something interesting in ops. So we thought, okay, possibly a time has come for us to try to create a new program which tries to marry these global realities with Indian aspirations. And whatever I'm about to explain is kind of the result of our brainstorming, talking to people, our experiences in research as well as training, etc. So let's get started into that. And as I said, we'll come to the questions towards the latter half of the program of today's session, right? So Sanketji, can we move forward from this, please? Great, thank you. Right, so let me start with the big picture, then we'll start getting deeper into each of those dimensions one by one. So how do we do that, right? See, whenever you design a program for executives, you have to be mindful of the realities that all the executives are operating in, right? What I mean by that is that you already have pressing job schedules, deadlines to meet, right? Projects to complete, team engagements to take care of. So what we do is typically we do not overburden you and we do not underburden you also. And that's one of the central questions in the world of operations, just the right amount. So how do we do that? So the way we have planned is that almost every week, the reason I'm saying almost is because ours being a diverse country, right, Professor Sarkar was saying, right, you might have festivals coming in once in a while or some tech issues sometimes. Generally does not happen, but we are mindful of those sensibilities. But broadly speaking, sessions happening over weekends, right? And for 3 hours basically, right? For 3 hours every weekend. And the whole idea there is that uh, 3 hours is the session engagement, right? Is the engagement in the session. But a lot of the engagement is outside the session. What do I mean by this? So there could be frequently pre-reads and proceeds. So sometimes you might be expected to spend a bit of time reading before the session, sometimes after the session, right? There will be a lot of supplementary reading materials also that would be provided to you. Some of them for immediate reference, some of them for later reference. So it also depends on your level of availability and your level of engagement and your level of, because different topics might have different interest groups, right? People come from different backgrounds, even within ops. So there's plenty of ground to cover, plenty of stuff to talk about. And too much of virtual is also not a good thing. So what we have also planned is towards the end of the program, we would have a 3-day campus immersion, which will be, including the validatory ceremony, right? Wherein you are all formally handed all the certificates and all that, right? And the sessions would be live, the IIMK sessions. Somebody had a query on the Kellogg sessions. Those are pre-recorded video lectures on 2 of the modules. Our sessions would completely be live, right? And followed by a campus immersion, as I mentioned, 3-day campus immersion towards the end of the program. Pedagogy wise, what we typically do is it's a combo of the usual ones, right? That you typically find in MBA curriculum, which is a mixture of experience sharing, case studies, sometimes projects also, sometimes case analysis, sometimes peer group learnings, right? So it's a combo of that usual pedagogical tools that we typically have in managerial environments, right? I would stress again that the whole idea of having a nice group of 40, 50, 60, 80, 100, whatever people may be, is that it allows a lot of cross-pollination of ideas, right? So you might have somebody from paint industry trying to talk to somebody from IT, somebody from healthcare trying to talk to somebody from hardcore manufacturing, right? So that allows a lot of peer group learning, and we sincerely encourage that, right? So what we as a coordinators would request you, and this is backed by our years of doing these kind of programs, is that you please be open to new ideas, both academically as well as from practice, because that really adds value to the program delivery as well as your learning throughout this in the next 1 year or so, right? Some of you might have queries around the executive alumni status. So yes, so what typically happens is IIMK does give you an executive alumni status once you successfully complete this program. And typically what happens is that all these alumni, it's a separate group basically, right? So all alumni try to come together and form working groups, area groups. So for example, just tomorrow we have the inauguration of the Mumbai chapter of the IIMK Executive Alumni Association, right? So a lot of interesting stuff happening, and I'm sure the mantle will be passed to all of you, right? So that is one. So that is broadly what the broad idea is. Let me try to get deeper into all that stuff. Sanket, can you move ahead, please? Thank you. Right. So who should join this program? I think that's possibly one of the most pertinent questions. And I think all of you would have that question in your minds. So we look at this problem, this question along 2 dimensions, right? 2 dimensions. So one is you could already be a CEO or in those kind of operational leadership. Maybe. So the value proposition is slightly different for both of these groups. So for example, if you're already someone who is in those kind of leadership roles, right, it could work at 2 levels. What do I mean by 2 levels? So for example, many of the themes that we'll try to touch upon shortly, right, ideas around operational transformation, operational excellence, you would already be dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. So how the program would possibly help you is, number one, it could possibly give you a kind of a refresher that what are the latest frameworks, technologies, processes, methodologies around that. What is the latest thinking backed by empirical as well as conceptual theoretical research, right? And it kind of also allows you to question those frameworks, test their availability for your own use case, and basically all around kind of allows you to see that, hey, am I on the right track or not? So as I said, it's a combo of newer information, getting exposed to newer methodologies, and at the same time trying to understand that, hey, how applicable these are to your own purpose. On the other hand, if you're someone who is not yet in those kind of operational leadership roles, someone who's aspiring for that, or maybe already on a fast track to that kind of career trajectory, this would have a slightly different value proposition in the sense that possibly you might not have been exposed to many of the ideas that we have planned to cover in this program, at least formally, if not informally, right? So it would be a good skill building exercise for you also, right? I mean, if you're already a leader, right, you might have already gone through that journey. For you, it's more about updating yourself and trying to do a refresher and trying to see, hey, what is the latest thinking around that, and what are people thinking about that? So what are the later challenges? But if you're someone who's in that trajectory, so that is also a useful skill building. So what do I mean by skill building? So for example, right, if you're someone who dabbles in inventories, so what are some of the foundational challenges around inventories in different kind of supply chains, right? And the idea is, right, to understand that these skills, right, how do you leverage that? So as I will shortly explain, the modules have a certain logic to them, right? I mean, the way we will take you through different modules, there's a certain logic to them. Quite a bit of background back and forth has gone into them, right? Trying to talk to people in industry, trying to talk to other trainers, trying to talk to people who have done similar programs. So quite a lot of thought has gone into that. Recognition criteria and everything, I'm sure all of you would have already seen from the program brochure, right? It's anyway in front of you. So that is the broad idea. These are the two broad constituencies for which we have designed the programs: people already in operational leadership roles, and people who are aspiring to be, on a fast track, in terms of the career trajectory for operational leadership roles. So those are the two broad umbrellas that we have planned the program for, right? So if I were to quickly summarize the key learning outcomes here, right? So I'll highlight it at multiple levels. So at the first level, I would say is the level of information, right? And the whole idea of level of information is that, in case you have not been exposed to those, right, you will be exposed to ideas around, okay, how do you understand the world of business and operations, right? So one is at the level of information. The second is at the level of understanding, right? Okay, once you have the information about what are the frameworks and operations, how do you understand quality, how do you understand inventory, how do you understand risk, how do you understand sustainability? The second is, how do you go about leveraging that, right? What is the use of that, right? So trying to build understanding of that. And the third broad idea is transformation, that, okay, once you know it, you understand it, how do you use and transform the organization? So the learning outcomes you would notice are spread through all of those different areas, right? So starting from the very mundane to very strategic, right? More focus on the strategic wise, given the constituency that we're targeting, the more focus would be more on the strategic aspects. But yes, we would not be neglecting the nuts and bolts and the nuances, so to speak, right? So those are the broad learning outcomes that you can possibly look at. And of course, through our discussions, we'll be talking of variety of industries, either through case studies or through simulations or through experience sharing or through your respective projects. Variety of industries will be covered as we move along in the different programs. So that's definitely another learning outcome, right? Getting exposure to different industries is a great thing. Believe me, right? Our experience has shown that it's absolutely wonderful. How do you take learning from one industry and try to use it in your own industry? That's a wonderful aspect of any such program, right? Right. So yeah. So let's get into the nuances, right? Let's get into the nuances. So we have a structured intervention across a variety of modules. So let me explain the logic of how these modules are set through. So the first module is what we are calling operational diagnostics, right? Operational diagnostics. And the reason we are trying to say operational diagnostics is that before you set on a course of treatment, in a manner of speaking, right, you need to have some kind of test results, right? Some kind of test results. So the idea of this first module is to give you the lay of the land. What do we mean by lay of the land? So for example, right, this first module will try to go into the very basics of trying to understand operations and processes, whether it be in product environments, service environments, or project environments. Now, how do you understand this? You require 3-4 different tools. You require, it's kind of like the ABCDs of the world of business. So what are those ABCDs? So for example, you would have some intervention on trying to understand how do you look at data, right? A little bit of data analysis. Just a small heads up. If you are someone whose bread and butter is already data analytics, you might feel that the tools are known to you, but we'll once we have exposure to tools, the focus will turn to implementation. That might be the more value add for you. But for a diverse audience, right, when you have people across industries, across experiences, across job roles, it's always good to have a common language across all of them. So getting exposure to the introductory parts of data analysis. How do you understand data? What are different forms of data? How do you manipulate data? How do you go about optimization in the world of business, right? Because data-driven optimization is a very big thing. Has been since Second World War, but increasingly becoming more and more prominent. One interesting thing that we have also planned for this is because you would know, right? Accounting and finance, right? So accounting is like the language of business. So we have sessions planned around the fundamentals of accounting also, right? Because end of the day, once you read at the financial statement, right, you should be able to make sense, say, operational wise, am I doing good or bad? And we also have sessions planned around the broad notion of corporate finance, right? That, okay, how do you look at working capital? Because all of those have, right, working capital, the world of finance and the world of operations are inextricably linked. So this first module will give you the lay of the land that, okay, what are we dealing with? Operations, yes, but operations does not work in isolation. So you have so many other things, interlinkages to take care of, right? That will give you the basic language, the basic understanding, and you can estimate the basic health of the organization, operational diagnostics. So that is module 1 for you. Now, from that, we'll move a level of abstraction higher, right? So we'll be keeping on moving in higher levels of abstraction as we move over. So second module is what we are calling operational effectiveness, right? So effectiveness, I mean, there are many definitions depending on which business guru you listen to, talk to, and all that stuff. But broadly speaking, at some level, effectiveness is about doing what is required to be done, right? Meeting the goals. So how do you do that? So that's where the focus will turn into broader supply chain, into the broader supply chain. So we'll try to talk about inventories in supply chain. What are the fundamental trade-offs inherent in managing inventories? How do organizations design their supply chains, right? How do you take a call on where to put up a plant, where to put a warehouse, right? How do you model some of those scenarios? We'll also talk about procurement, right? We'll also talk a little bit about some classic supply chain strategies which are used across a variety of industries, like things like postponement, things like risk pooling, things like quick response. So what are different supply chain strategies which a lot of companies have been using of late? And at some level, a little bit of translation of them, again, linking it to strategy, right? Because this is a leadership program. So a little bit of understanding of them through one of the popular tools called Balanced Scorecard. So the idea is move to a higher level of abstraction, look at a slightly bigger picture, but the number of moving parts will also go up, right? So you go from operations, primarily internal, then you start looking at the extended supply chain, all the way from procurement to the delivery, right? So look at the supply chain. So these are the first 2 modules, operational diagnostics and operational effectiveness, right? As I said, we will keep on moving to higher levels of abstraction, right? Higher levels of abstraction. So the third module is around operational excellence, right? So, okay, you have understood, right? You know what the data is telling you, you have understood it. Now what to do? So in operational excellence, we'll try to look at the big ideas. What do I mean by big ideas? So one of the fundamental things that we'll try to understand is, okay, what is the notion of quality? Again, just to clarify, when we say the notion of quality, we are not trying to make you experts around quality checking and quality assurance. No, that's not what this program is about. But if you're in any organization, right, you need to understand how to implement quality initiatives, what quality means, what are the quality excellence models around us, right? Some fundamental ideas around operating philosophies like Six Sigma, right? So the idea is, again, to understand, to ingrain the notion of quality the way people understand it. And I mean, this is a little bit of a side, but in case someone is interested, right? I mean, if depending on who takes the session, but if you get some time, right? There is a series of videos on YouTube, right? About Steve Jobs talking about somebody called Joseph Juran. So Joseph Juran is one of the all-time great quality gurus, right? So in case you're interested to understand what kind of discussions we could be having, so Steve Jobs, right? The Apple founder, talking about quality, right? Quality in manufacturing, quality of products, which is somewhat different from where he originally came from. So in case you're interested, you can take a look at that aspect also. We'll talk a little bit about design thinking, right? Which is all the rage nowadays and a key part of the toolkit of modern organizations. Sustainability, right? Very, very, very important nowadays. Some of you would have seen something interesting what Walmart is trying to do since yesterday, and we'll see those kind of examples as we move along. We'll also talk about risk and resilience, especially, COVID and post-COVID, these topics. Lot of, questions keep on coming to us. A lot of people keep on writing to us. A lot of research is happening on this. A lot of consultancies happening around these kind of things. So this would be about operational excellence, right? Operational excellence, right? So after module 3, we'll go for operational transformation. That, okay, this is the ideals. How do I go from as is to be, right? So that's where the operational transformation module comes into the picture. So we'll talk a little bit about the notion of something called a business model. Now, business model is a term that all of us keep on reading about, all of us talk about, but we'll look at some classic frameworks around the notion of business models, how you take an organization and evaluate its business model. We'll also talk a little bit about change management, right? Because if you want to transform, by definition, it means that no, you are going from state A to state B. So how do you manage this process? And whenever change would be there, there will be aspects of conflicts also. So these two have to be enmeshed in the transformation journey, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the nuances of modern day tech interventions in the domain of supply chain, which are sometimes enablers, sometimes inhibitors, right? So we'll talk a little bit about digital supply chains, a little bit about blockchains and supply chain traceability and stuff like that. So these are the 4 broad modules that we'll essentially be talking about, right? And of course, this will all be supplemented by the Kellogg's modules, which will be, focusing one of the modules would be focusing on the of course, ever-present notion of AI. I'm sure all of you would have been reading, right? Something transformational which happened a couple of days back. Jensen Huang, launching the Blackwell chips, right? Absolutely amazing for GPUs. So AI is transforming, right? Whether we like it or not. So this module from experts from Kellogg would be a recorded version, and they will talk about AIs as a concept that, okay, what do we understand by AI? Not necessarily the technical aspect of it, but the implementation and the managerial aspect of it. And they will try to talk about, these videos will talk about the interventions in different domains, right? So automotive, right? You talk of autonomous vehicles, you talk of operations, what will be the impact, right? So that is an AI focused module. And the next module is trying to again link it to growth, right? So you have a plan. How do you make the organization grow? So they have these 2 modules planned from Kellogg's, which will be recorded modules. The IIMK modules would be live, right? Right. So now, coming from this, the next step to understand is that how do we sort of encapsulate the learning? So as part of this, we have planned a group project, capstone project. And what is the idea? The idea is for you to be able to implement some or all of what you will be learning, what you will be exploring in these kind of sessions, right? And specifically, this will be a group project. So we will be forcing you to work in groups, right? Because peer learning is a key part of the program. And we, as an institute, we sincerely believe in that philosophy, right? And of course, at our coordinator level, we also fully support that. So what will be the idea here is that we will try to have 2-3 interventions, guided interventions in these projects. So for example, right, we would ask you that, okay, you take an organization, try to understand its current operations. Are they good or bad, right? So in some senses, diagnostics at your own level, right? Once you do those diagnostics, we'll also give you interventions around it. Okay, what kind of improvements, initiatives can you plan? So, okay, what is the plan? And then we'll also try to guide you towards, okay, how can you achieve those objectives? So the point is, it allows you to link theory to practice, right? So we will have separate interventions with different groups. So that's what we have planned, a fairly intensive interaction, which also means a lot of work for us, but more importantly, a lot more work for all of you also. So we would sincerely encourage all of you to take this very, very seriously, because this is an occasion for you to meet in small groups, virtually, or if you're in the same location, even physically for that matter. But then try to have an exchange of ideas, right, in smaller groups, which can always be more conducive to more detailed examinations. So capstone project is going to be a very, very important part of the analysis. Another pedagogical tool that we frequently use is simulations, and our experience has shown that people really love simulations. I think partly because they don't have to hear me speak, right? I think simulations it's more about you doing rather than me speaking. But on a more serious note, a simulation allows you a picture of, I would say a very sanitized yet complex gray matter, right? So for example, I'll give you a small example, right? So one of the classic simulations that we do in this space is a simulation called Global Supply Chain Management Simulation, right? And that simulation, what you have to do is you have to operate, you are put in the role of kind of like a CEO of a global mobile phone organization. And you have to look at the forecasting process, you have to look at the design process, you have to look at the procurement process, you have to look at disruptions. And end of the day, you are the P&L boss. So your performance is mapped to the P&L. right? So it's a fairly involved simulation and people generally, tend to like it a lot, right? But of course, this would require interventions around processes, interventions around interventions around supply chain design. So this would typically be, towards the, after the first 1 or 2 modules are over, we'll try to do this simulation. So we will, keep on modifying the simulations as the need arises, but we do have good kind of input from the various simulations that we'll be using throughout the program. Similarly, right? If you come to an MBA institute, you can't run away from case studies, right? Howsoever you might wish to run away from that. So this is just an exemplar list. It does not mean that we'll take all. What we do is we typically take a look at the audience profiles also, and then try to take a call on the which case studies to take. But generally, we keep in mind 2-3 things. Number one is that case studies obviously have to be linked to the pedagogical objective of that module and that session in the module, right? That's one. Number two, we also do not want the case studies to be always from the same industry, right? I mean, you don't want all case studies from the same apparel retail itself, right? So depending on different contexts, you would have different case studies because this allows you to understand the implementation of concepts in a variety of realities. And the third point is that the case studies should also have different levels of challenge. You would notice, right, that initially when we are trying to do the first few modules, it might be more problem solving case studies, right? Hey, can we build this model and do that? And as you go higher levels of abstraction, the discussion has to be much more richer, but at the same time at a much more macro level, right? So there are different abstract levels of case studies, and we'll have a very, very heterogeneous and interesting mix, both Indian as well as foreign. See, one of the things that people sometimes get fixated on that, are you only taking case studies from this? What I tell people is that case study is a vehicle to explain a concept. That's just a context. So please do not get too much bogged down in the context. Please understand that context is just to tell the story of a concept. So concept is the more objective. Context is just a vehicle for that. So we'll have a very nice mix of all kind of industries, right? Some of the classic names, FANGs, Fungams, right? We'll have Indian, good Indian organizations. Bad examples also, by the way, right? That is also important. So I still remember that when I was at IIM Calcutta, one of my favorite courses was a course called Corporate Social Irresponsibility, right? So that was one of my favorite courses, which talked about the bad examples. How do you learn from that? So again, we'll have all kind of stories to tell from both parts of the island, I'm speaking, right? Yeah. In terms of program certification, so as I said, IIMK has, this has started very recently, just at the time of COVID. So we have started this thing called executive alumni, and that status would be given. And typically the certificates are given something called certificate of participation and certificate of completion. So certificate completion means you have done the hard yards, attended the sessions. I mean, they have a minimum threshold of 75% attendance. So we try to make life tough for you, right? But believe me, right? Once you complete the program, you miss the Saturday sessions, right? So you'll miss, what am I supposed to do Saturday 6:45 to 9:45? You will miss it. Rest assured, right? Our experiences told us that. So there is a evaluation threshold that has to be met. So how do we evaluate? We will typically go for a mix of small MCQ quizzes every morning after modules, projects, simulation. So we have a nice assessment plan. So you have to meet the assessment thresholds and the attendance thresholds. See, attendance is about, are you there, right? Are you there is attendance. Have you learned something is the assessment, right? So when I say assessment, please don't be alarmed. We are very mindful of the fact that it's an executive audience that dealing with thousands of other problems. So we don't want to add to the list of the problems. We want to be a solution for you. But at the same time, I think it's important to ensure that, hey, is everyone on the right track? So it's less like a sounding board. Hey, just, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? So that's the way we plan the assessments. And typically the certificates would be handed out during the validatory ceremony towards the end of the program. And it's a lovely institute. I hope you can see, right? Just my phone background pic is IIMK itself, right? It's a very green campus. So if you want an oxygen recharge, feel free to come to IIMK, right? Especially people from places which are typically struggling with pollution and all that stuff. Right. Of course. I think allow me to hand it over to our team from Emeritus. I think they can guide you on the certificates from Kellogg's also. So Sanketji, can I hand over to you, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for giving me the details about the program. I'm sure there were a lot of questions which will be answered there. Now, talking to you about the certification from the Kellogg. So there are 2 modules from the Kellogg, wherein you will get individual certificates for both the modules. Like you will get one certificate for AI applications for growth, and the second certificate is for leading growth strategies. Definitely, Kellogg is one of the global B schools as well. So definitely this will also add a weightage on your resume. It will add a weightage on the learning skills which you will get in the program as well. So now we will have the floor open for question and answers. So we'll go with the questions from the Q&A sessions. So Professor, we have a question from Abhishek Gupta. I am currently managing a global capacity center for a moderate side US-based company, which falls under ITES domain. What should I look forward to be and benefited from the program?
Okay, so it is from ITES, right?
Yes.
All right. So Abhishek, I mean, of course, it's such a wide field, and I'll try to give you my best input. So see, there are 2-3 ways to look at this, right? So first example, right? So if you are trying to look at the nature of the tools, right? So the exact tools. So when we talk around the notions of, for example, right, capacities and processes, those are as universal concepts as they come, right? So whether it's IT environment, whether it's non-IT environment, it does not matter. So tools would definitely help you out. I would say where you might benefit a bit more than the tools, because you might not be into the actual hustle and bustle of a manufacturing or those kind of operating service environments. I think the transformation sessions and the operational excellence sessions might be much more useful to you compared to the skill ones. So again, if you can share a bit more detail on what exactly do what is your role like, I think we might be able to guide you a little bit more. So may I request you to just add some more information, and I think Professor Sarkar, if there is something that you might like to add for Abhishek, that would also be great.
Yeah, I would like to add that if you are talking about, say, the tech part of ITES, that's a different matter altogether. But finally, after all, whatever these ITES services that you will be providing will be for some business. So I generally, what I do in one of my class, I generally share one of the survey that USA Today carries out every year about what is the best management job in US. And interestingly, you will find that the best job would be something like, say, mathematicians, statisticians, operations manager, OR analyst, yes, some domains of finance and others. And then I would again prompt the students to ask this question. Suppose that this survey is done in India, what would be the job likes? We will finally will be unanimous in concluding that obviously many of the jobs that we are seeing in the top list will not be there. So the reason being, so I'm cutting it short. So finally we end up discussing and more or less agreeing, sometimes disagreeing with this, that see, we as a country, and many people have said, including Wozniak has said in one of his visits to Delhi, he said that India is not an innovative country. Indians may be innovative in the US, but in India as a country is not innovative. So although on a very first day, I may be starting with a very, very controversial statement, but the point that I'm trying to highlight that to actually take the next step in, as again coming back to say the next stage of economic growth or do something very, very original or creative, you have to go to the fundamentals. And that is where you will find that many of my collaborators, ex-colleagues, as well as some of my networks, they in the US, they basically work even for many of the global companies, including some of the features that you will be seeing in various companies who are operating in India. Like the recent one is like, say, Amazon is offering something called fulfillment by Amazon. So actually you will be surprised to know that this is the brainchild of a faculty member of an university, and he is leading the team. So the point that I'm trying to highlight is that, so whenever you have to push the boundary. You cannot just skip the fundamentals and the principles. And that is where probably we want to focus. But obviously, we will learn from others. We will learn from benchmark cases that already Professor Arqum has talked about. But we will also try to emphasize on two important things. That one is that how do we apply fundamentals into solving our own problems? So that is where I was earlier saying that we'll be talking a lot about problems that we face in India. So although we may be starting our context in some cases which are ready-made available, but mostly we will bring the context to India and try to talk about the principles, the fundamental principles, concept, how it can be applied in Indian context, how they have to be adopted, what are the challenges that are still to be solved, and some of the brainstorming, in fact, some of the, especially through projects and some of the discussions that we will do, we'll be also trying to push the boundaries of our thought process. And probably that will also be maybe immediately on some cases, we may not be having any solution, but definitely we will take away some ideas, food for thought, and that is going to help a lot. In fact, at a very senior leadership role, the ideas are more important than actually doing, say manufacturing from one stage to next stage. They are very, very important, but at a senior leadership role, the ideas are very, very important. So that is where we would focus. And in fact, that is the hallmark of whole IIM systems pedagogy, that we actually build upon those ideas, that the classroom discussions that happen, that is actually is something like a reservoir of ideas. You just have to pick some of the ideas for your use. I'm not sure. So I'm able to, although I did not talk specifically about ITES, but now this learning, you have to convert it into whatever services that you will be offering to your clients. So it is not just the ITES tech part that you are giving, you are also providing a business solution. And this is what is going to help you definitely. Yeah. So that is from my side.
Thank you, Professor. So we have another question from Srijit. It will be great if you arrange intermediate in campus sessions as well.
I can definitely, we can definitely, sense where he's coming from, and believe me, we would love to do that. So typically what happens is that, whenever you are starting something new, right? And you, as I think everyone knows, it's the first batch that is being planned for this program. You just want to be, careful in terms of what you can deliver and what can be done. So we are alive to this feedback. But for the first batch, the way we have thought about is that let's end up with a bang, right? In the sense that let's end with a nice valedictory ceremony. So for the first batch, we are not planning any intermediate interventions, only towards the end. But your feedback is very well taken. Of course, once you become an alumni, right, you feel free to come down anytime, right? I think that's, it is your institute. But for the first batch, the way we have designed is that, we are only going to have one immersion towards the end of the program. But I understand where you're coming from. I sincerely appreciate that.
In fact, when we planned the program, we have actually gone through all those iterations, that when to have the in-campus, whether to have it initially or in the middle of the program or towards the end. Given the constraints that we have, so we thought that will be actually a very good one towards the end, because what we plan to do is towards the end, whatever we have covered, we want to basically something like, say, use them in the penultimate sessions. As well as it is always nice to receive the final certificate in person in the campus. So that is also we thought about it. And that is why we thought that it has to be actually towards the end of the program. Otherwise, you can always drop down to the campus.
So we have question from Ritesh Ahuja. From your prior batches, how many trainees actually become CXOs, COOs, and in what time frame do you track this?
Oh, this is the first batch, right? So we're hoping you would be the first one and then the shortest possible time frame. I hope that answers the query, right,
But
Ritesh?
if you look at our other programs related to operations, supply chain management, there are plenty. There are plenty. And in fact, I believe Emeritus will have more numbers than we ourselves. Am I correct?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question from Ritesh, that will all the trainings be recorded? I am a frequent domestic and international travel and would appreciate that flexibility. The second question is, if we are not able to finish in a 1 year time frame, would there be any time extensions?
So let me address the first part. I think they would be recorded and recordings are available for some time, not too long, but they are available for some time. I think Emeritus can possibly address that better. But don't worry about travel, right? We also keep on traveling and take sessions. So for example, Tuesday I have a session in a program, right? But I have to go to Delhi. So I would take the session from my hotel in Delhi, right? Full day engagement, that evening I have to take a session. So that rest assured, that's not really a problem. The duration of recording availability, I think possibly the Emeritus team might know better. And I think not completing within a year will not be constrained, right? Because you would be flowing through, recordings would be available. So you should be able to complete. I don't see any problem why you would not be able to complete it within the year.
Recordings are available to the end of the program.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
If I'm not able to travel for the visit to IIMK as planned, for conclusion, can I still get the completion certificate assuming other criteria are met?
Short answer, yes, but we would sincerely love for you to have it. It's once in a lifetime kind of thing, right? So please, okay, just a heads up. It's not as if that suddenly 15 days in advance we tell you that, hey, can you come on 15th April? No, no, no. We give you due notice well in advance that, hey, this is when the immersion is planned for. But we would love to do that. But yes, short answer, yes. If you meet the other criteria, certificate itself is not an issue per se. But we know, I think we kind of mandate it in that sense that please do come. We do, it's mandated in that sense.
Again, a question from Ritesh. Finally, when are the classes and the weekly time commitment required by your experience?
Right. So Saturday, 6:45 to 9:45 is the plan, right? So we thought, we are anyway spoiling your Saturday, let's not spoil your Sundays also, right? But yeah, in terms of planning, see, it depends on session to session and topic familiarity. For example, what do I mean by this, right? So if someone who has spent years and years in inventory, right? So you might be more attuned to whatever we are talking about in inventory. So in that sense, the kind of background reading, the kind of questions that you might have would be lower, as opposed to somebody in quality, right, who has been into quality for some time, looked at quality excellence and all that. So, but all said and done, right, we expect that, 3 hours of in-class engagement and at least a few hours per week, if you can spend, that would be really wonderful, because there is a lot of supplementary, immediate as well as extended reading materials that we'll be providing also, in addition to the sessions, right? So there's quite a bit of scope to learn.
Thank you, Professor. So we have another question from Abhishek Gupta. I mostly look after the location and offer services to our parent company around P2P and O2C, customer service, data analytics, market research. I think, Professor, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. B2C and O2C both, right? Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
Oh yeah, then though I think a lot of our stories come from these domains. I think then though I think you'll find a lot of impact. So and not just you, I would say your clients' stories would also be there. So I think in that sense, you will find a lot of value, right? Not just directly for you, even from the client side. I think that would also help you understand the business operations of your clients also. You already understand it, possibly in a much more detailed way.
We have a question from Mohammad Hussain. I worked in the field of process management, then moved into quality, currently working in banking industry as project manager. So my work is more towards E2E journey and ensuring IT teams is completing automation based on our recommendation and business market practices. I want to know how this program will contribute in my work or growth prospects.
Right. So, first of all, thanks for the background. It helps us understand the context. So see, I would say that no, you might have to think through that exactly what are you trying to get through the training. So for example, right, if you're looking for just to understand, given your background, right, if you're just trying to understand how to map out the digital journey and how do you carry out digital transformation in detail, possibly this program might not necessarily be a very good fit for you if you're trying to approach purely from the digital aspect of it. But if you're trying to get into, I would say, a bit more macro aspects around not just the digital, digital is one part of it, but our focus is more on the ops, right? So when I say ops, it's about the products and the services and the processes and the systems part. not just the digital transformation part. So if you're looking at something that, okay, as is where to be in digital transformation, you might be better off attending a dedicated digital transformation program. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, possibly, right, this might be the right program for you in terms of, as you said, right, qualities, in terms of processes, in terms of systems, in terms of sustainability, in terms of the, risk and resilience, those kind of things. But again, depending on what is the immediate learning goal that you have in mind, right? So please, I would strongly urge you to take a look at the brochure once more and then take a call.
Question is from Ritesh. How do you benchmark and improve your program with others, say IIM, LMA, and other colleges across the world?
So that probably will be the last people to answer that. It is, you have to do the comparison. We would not like to make any comment on our fellow institutes. So it is purely on you. How do you judge? And we'll be very happy during the course of the program, in case you join, any feedback that if you give us, then we will carry it forward, and then maybe we will try to adopt those if possible in the current program. And if not possible, then in future programs. That's what we can say. But otherwise, we would not like to make any comment.
We have a question from Sujit. I have query regarding admission. Please advise whom should I ask for the query. Sujit, I'll take this question. At the end of the program, end of the session today, I'll share the details of the contacts, email, WhatsApp number, and the where to call, through which you can connect with the program advisor. We have a question from Santosh. I think we have answered that. It will be great if you arrange one campus session in the middle of the program. I think we have already answered that. We have a question from Jayant Kumar. Dr. Sarkar, my question is similar. I'm working as a data scientist or freelancer. How would I benefit from this program? Would the principles explained by you would apply to the role I am in? And hoping this course also guides for the role I am in.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that you are a quant guy doing, or either a quant guy or a technology person. So either of these two. So whatever it is, so what we are focusing here is primarily, like say, if you look at, say, our first module on diagnostics, we'll learn some of the tools and techniques which you may be already knowing, like say prescriptive analytics, or say the predictive analytics. So you can, you as being a data scientist, you know that it cannot be covered. The technical details may not be possible in one session or two sessions. So what we are primarily going to focus on, how do you apply those tools primarily in solving business problems? So technology comes as a facilitator in that. So if you look at from that angle, you being a data scientist, probably one of your takeaway will be that how do you actually leverage your technical skills to solve business problems, primarily operational problems. So that will be my response. Anything you want to add, Professor Arqum?
I agree. I think it's the business side which might be the takeaway rather than the technicals, right? Because it's just a flavor, it's just an opening flavor of what we will plan to do. As I said, it's just to bring everyone on the same level, right? Because we typically have heterogeneous groups, so everyone should be on the same level for us to build on that.
We have a question from Sujit. I have applied for the program. My years of experience surpass the required limit. However, I'm unable to provide the semester-wise scores, though I have the final result score. Sujit, if you can leave your contact details, the program advisor will give you a call, and then we can see what best we can do with this. Next question is, how soon is the immersion days announced in advance?
Okay, you can hold us to that. You can hold us to that for a month at least. But just to share with you, in our experience, we typically do at least 2 to 3 months in advance. But a month you can handle. If we do it less than a month, you can hold us to that and say, hey, you promised at least a month. But experience-wise, for other programs, we generally do at least 2 to 3 months in advance.
So there is dynamism in it. The reason being that our executive training facilities are always in a very high demand. So there is also a scheduling dimension. So that will probably in fact give you more time, because of scheduling constraints. If suppose even if we are willing to do it 1 month from now, maybe because of scheduling constraints or the facilities are not available, so because of that it may get delayed by 1, 2, or maybe more than that. So like as Professor Arqum has said, minimum you can expect 1 month's minimum, but it is going to be more than that.
And just to add, right, for example, we are running a different program. We are planning the immersion in August, but we have already announced it. So, I mean, I'm just saying that you can hold us for a month, but as Professor Sarkar was mentioning, there is dynamism, right? There's always a dynamism.
We have a last question from Rogerio. Currently, I am industrial director in the manufacturing field. Is this program suitable for manufacturing professionals?
Definitely. There is absolutely no reason why it should not be. In fact, we will actually have cases, and many of the concepts, principles, or the other discussions will revolve around both services as well as manufacturing organizations. And in fact, you will find that many of the things there are a lot of commonalities between services and manufacturing, as well as there will be specialties about services as well as specialties about manufacturing. We will also touch upon them. For example, when we will be talking about manufacturing, we'll be talking a lot about inventory. But when we'll be talking about, say, services, we'll be talking a lot about capacity, waiting lines, queues. So all those things will be more. So we will touch upon both.
Professor, I think that answers all the questions. So thank you, professors. And I'll just give you a brief about Emeritus. So we are service and technology partners with various B schools with 12 plus years of enhancing careers. We have tie-ups with 55 plus universities across the world with 450 plus programs that are currently running, and we are available in 160 learner countries. We have 300 plus leading faculties who are delivering world-class educations, and there are 2.5 million plus learners globally along with us. Finally, the next step here is to get in touch with our program advisors. You can call them directly on the given number on the screen, or you can mail it to iimk.exceed@emeritus.org. We have also WhatsApp available. You can WhatsApp on +91 865 7038 243. I think we are done with the session. Do not have any other questions. Thank you so much for guiding us through, Professor Sarkar and Professor Mateen. Thank you so much for helping us in the program, understanding about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all the
Sanketji
participants and
and
entire Emeritus team.
Emeritus
Thank you.
team.
Have a good night.
And thank you everyone for the nice interactions that we had. Hoping that we will be able to see most of you in the program. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.